Namaste, everyone. Hi. Today is a very special session because of the very special guest who is joining me. Swami Mukundananda ji needs no introduction, but I'll spend few minutes talking about him. He is a world-renowned spiritual teacher who has been sharing his vast knowledge through his books, lectures, and life transformation programs for almost 4 decades now. He is considered as an international authority on mind management and has millions of followers globally. Dividing his time between India and the US, he has deeply affected the lives of millions of people. And it is my extreme honor to have this opportunity to speak with him today. I welcome Swami Mukund Anandaji. Namaste, Swamiji. It's such an honor and pleasure to have you here.
Namaste, Munmun. Indeed, it's my honor and privilege to be speaking to you. I must say, I have been through your book and I have loved it very much.
Thank you, Swami. Thank you. It means a lot coming from you. And, thank you for writing this wonderful book called The Power of Thoughts. I have just been, hooked onto it and have just been reading. In fact, I have told my daughter also to read that, and she's also reading it. She started very recently started. And I'm just going to ask you a few questions because I think it is so important to, talk about the mind and the thoughts and everything that you've explained in the book so beautifully. So, number one, what I really want to, ask you or want you to tell, the audience who are listening to us today is that, the concept of health that we have today is very superficial, which means it's very physical. It's about getting into a certain size, looking a certain way, or having your blood work kind of, in place, all about numbers and stuff. But yet, all of these seemingly healthy people, we find them, suffering from anxiety, depression, poor stress handling in day-to-day life. So just like we have a physical, fitness regime, so to speak, we go to the gym, we do so many things. Are there any mental practices that can keep our mind fit and healthy so that, we can navigate through our, very stressful days that we have these days?
Definitely, Munmun, just as we accord priority to our physical health and take time out for it from our daily schedule, we need to do the same for our mental health as well. And the first thing we need to do is to make time for solitude. So, in this stressful life, our brain is functioning in over gear, and the brain and the body get out of sync with the mind always running ahead. So, when
Correct.
we withdraw for a little while from the world, it enables our mind and body to sync with each other. And
Right.
this stimulates the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest and digest system.
Mhm.
Now, in this solitude, what we need to do is to, first of all, feed our mind, just as we feed the body. If we wish to be healthy, we reduce the junk food and give ourselves
Mm.
good nutrition. Likewise, we need to feed our mind and intellect with good wisdom. That would be the first point to practice. And the second, those good ideas or wisdom that we receive, we want to put them in practice. And to do that, we have to practice our thoughts. Now, we are all aware of physical practice. We have learned cycling through it, driving through it, typing with the help of it. But we don't realize that mental practice is even more powerful. So, mental practice means you repeat a desired thought again and again in your mind. Now, this mental practice, when it is out of control, it becomes chinta or worry.
Mm.
A
Correct.
student fails in the exam and starts thinking, oh my God, I failed. How terrible, how awful, how will I show my face? That repetition of thought grips the mind so strongly, the child says, now my life is useless, let me put an end to it.
Hmm.
That was Chintan out of control. Now, if we bring it, make it intentional, which
Hmm.
means we decide that these are the thoughts I wish to revise, that
Correct.
the future is hopeful because the universe is benevolent and I have received blessings and grace in the past. Why should I be despondent? Now, when you revise that thought again and again and again, it creates the neural patterns of positivity, of hope, and of optimism. So,
Excellent.
contemplation is another powerful practice. And finally, as we all know, is meditation. So, meditation is consciously bringing our mind to focus on the subject of our choice. This is a huge topic.
Correct. Absolutely. Very well said, Swamiji. In fact, scientifically also, of course, so much in science, I truly believe is actually what people are inventing or discovering, or what we read in research papers as health professional today's, is something that has already been discovered thousands of years ago, and we all actually find them in our scriptures. It's just that maybe it's in a different name. So what you're speaking is actually, there's a scientific term which they say as neural retraining, or a neural remodeling, or a rewiring, where they say that the brain has plasticity, and through all of these beautiful practices you mentioned, it is possible to change the thought process and the life eventually. So really, really amazing. Swamiji, you spoke about meditation, and like you really said, like there's so much about meditation these days. Everybody wants to meditate, they feel that it's great to meditate, but there's as much misconceptions around it, there's as much mystery also around it, there's so many questions about it I face on a daily basis from my clients about the posture, about the direction, where to sit, how to sit, should I use music or should I just use mantras. So anything that you can really recommend for a very a beginner who doesn't know meditation but he's keen on it, so how should he just do it?
Okay, so Munmun, I'm glad you have brought up this topic. We can delve further into it. Meditation is not something new that we need to learn. A mother is constantly meditating on her child. A lover may be in the office but is meditating on the beloved. An artist is the artist is meditating on his work, his piece of art. The composer is meditating on his composition. In fact, even thieves, they engage in premeditated crime, right? So this activity of meditation is not alien to us. It is the subject we choose which makes all the difference. From a bottle, you can drink whiskey, you can drink nectar, and the effects will be different. So, we wish to bathe our mind in wonderful thoughts, in sublime thoughts, in noble thoughts. The misconception is that a lot of people they wish to make their mind blank. That
Yeah.
means my mind was giving problems, all these negative thoughts, so stop thinking. Now, stopping thinking means you are stopping the bad thoughts, but you're missing out the potential of using the mind for noble and sublime thoughts. It is like if we are bicycling and we say, I need to stop the forward movement, you press the brakes, it becomes an unstable condition. We either fall to the left or the right. But if we turn the handle, the forward movement becomes natural. Likewise, we have to think, let me choose a divine subject on which I can rest my mind. Now, when it comes to the posture and other things, any posture that is comfortable for us. The Yoga Sutras say, Sthiram Sukham Asanam.
Yes.
Find a posture that is not so relaxing that you will fall asleep. If somebody says, okay, the posture is not important, let me rest against the wall, then the mind
Yeah.
will become lazy and doze off. At the
Okay.
same time, the posture should not be so austere that it diverts your mind to it. So, in whichever posture one is comfortable, and of course, certain yogic practices require you to face in one direction. However, the divine is everywhere, and that is why there is no direction which is inauspicious. The important thing is to purify the mind. So, this meditation is something that I could go on and on about. But, Munmun, let me ask you a question. As a
Yes.
yoga teacher, as a spiritual teacher, I have always been telling them from the Bhagavad Gita, Yuktahaar viharasya yukta cheshtasya karmasu yukta swapnavabodhasya yogo bhavati dukkha. And then I came across your book, Yuktahaar, the belly
Yes.
button diet. So tell me,
Yes.
why did you choose this name and what is its importance?
So I chose this name simply because I'm a student of Gita. I'm a student of Advait Vedanta, and when I came across this verse, so this verse is basically Krishna teaching about moderation, not clinging into the extreme end of any spectrum, but practicing the Madhyam Marga, the golden middle path. So when I was studying this verse and my teacher was there and he was explaining it to me, I felt that this blends beautifully with my programs, the consultations that I have been doing for so many years with my clients. Because I do not follow any extreme diets. I don't recommend any extreme diets. What I recommend is just commonsensical approach to a holistic, lifestyle, a holistic health. And then I really felt that this is what should be my program. The second thing is in Yukt Ahar. Again, it's like Yukt plus Ahar, and Yukt is right quality, the right amount, the right timings, and Ahar is of course food. And all our scriptures, even Ayurveda, has been explaining to us that contrary to Western science that believes food is only the physical food that we eat, uh, this is not the only thing that nourishes us. This is what ancient scriptures have been telling us. Ayurveda have been telling us that it's just not food that nourishes us. It's our mind, it's our thoughts, it's our emotions, it's the relationships we nurture. All of these things feed us. And trying to have a balance in all of these aspects of health, because even if you're in a relationship, but if you're obsessing over your partner, even that is detrimental to your health and to the health of the relationship as well. So practicing this moderation where you are, having a balanced perspective towards every aspect of your life, not only diet, I think this word Yuktaha brought that beautifully. And just because it was the name of my program, which I have been running for the last 20 years, it was my editor's advice to retain the same as the book title.
I see. Very nice. Yes. In this verse, the Bhagavad Gita states that if we eat too much, we cannot attain success in yoga. If we eat too little, we cannot be yogis. If we work
Yes,
too hard or stop working, if we sleep too much or sleep too little, then we will not achieve success on the path. And
exactly.
Munmun, I must say that in your book also, I got this strong message that you have to follow the middle path, which is perfectly in line with the Gita. So
Yes,
sometimes in as I teach in the West and I come across so many different kinds of diets and so many different theories, it seems to me that people are sometimes forgetting the common sense that diet is not just about fasting, but about giving your body the nutrients that it needs. And
yeah.
glad to see that
Yeah,
message.
yeah. As they say, common sense is not so common. So that is what is happening, I believe. Another thing, Swamiji, I wrote in my book is the connect between the mind and the body. that, the minds and our thoughts and emotions are connected to our belly, to our digestion, to our physical health. And in fact, I've presented so many scientific references for people to understand this, because somehow I believe that in the race of losing weight or looking a certain way, people are just kind of, losing the complete picture. And then I came across your book and I was reading it. And in the book, also, you have explained so beautifully about how anxiety can lead to digestion issues and how resentment can cause problems of, say, arthritis. So I was, so happy to see that how beautifully you have elaborated this thing, and you have given so many practical examples from daily life, so that a common person can relate to it. So coming to my question, what I want to ask is that when a person wants to, say, purify his mind, he has understood that, okay, I need to have good positive thoughts, because that is how I'm going to, have good health. And the person, starts with the process. He wants to purify his mind, and the first thing he or she will do, is he will try to suppress the negative thoughts or the unwanted thoughts. But as a layman, what happens is, the more we try to suppress them, the more these thoughts come. So is there any way out of this seemingly, loop that is there, or, we supposed to be stuck on it?
Yes, Munmun. First of all, as you have said, that our ancients saw this body as a holistic system. And Western science, at least until a couple of decades ago, was adopting a very reductionist technique
Yeah.
that is just like a machine, and you've got this symptom, you pop in this pill, and the symptom will go away. Whereas our understanding was that it has got the gross sheath, it has got the vital energy sheath, the mental sheath, the intellectual sheath, the bliss sheath. And that is where science is headed today when they talk about holistic health. So, this mind
Absolutely.
body connection is now being discovered. And it is what our books of knowledge, sacred books, said all along, that the thoughts will impact the body, and our cells are listening to every thought. So we are careful about not ingesting poisons into the body. But what about the poisonous thoughts within? They are
Mhm.
harming us in so many ways, and these are called psychosomatic illnesses. Nowadays, the medical science has realized that 33% of the afflictions have a mental element or correlation to them. So we do realize that we wish to be positive and we don't wish to be negative. But like you said, that these negative thoughts seem to come as unwanted intruders.
Absolutely.
Now we have control over our hands while eating. You pick the spoon and put the food in the mouth. And if things started happening automatically, and you instructed the hand to put food in the mouth, it went to the head, or the chilies and pickles kept coming in the mouth again and again. That would be a really confusing situation. But that is what
Terrible.
happens in our thoughts. So somebody said to me, that Swamiji, my mind likes to work overtime even on the weekends.
Hmm.
So the solution is, our mind grips us because we are unable to see ourselves as separate from the mind. So when the mind creates or presents a negative thought, we start thinking, oh my God, why am I thinking like this? How terrible. One mother came to me and she said, Swamiji, I am in a real mess. I said, what is the mess? You will not believe what my mind is doing. I said, what happened? I've got this newborn infant baby. I said, are you thinking of lifting her and smashing her against the wall? She said, how did you come to know?
Oh my God.
You see, the point was that her mind, thousands of thoughts went by. And one negative thought came along. What if I were to lift her and smash her? If she had not paid attention to the thought, it would have gone by and made no difference to her. But the moment she energized it, then it started gaining hold there. And it was coming more and more. And it was going against her deepest values. How can I even think of hurting
Mm.
my baby? But the problem was that she was holding on to the thought and it was becoming stronger. So
Mm.
the technique we have is called Sakshi Bhav or witness consciousness, in
Yes.
which you don't have to accept every feeling, emotion, thought that your mind presents.
Mhm.
Rather, distance yourself from it and say, oh, my mind is playing mischief. Let it. I will not associate with it. Now, the moment you distance yourself from a thought, it loses its grip on you. This technique has become famous in the West as the technique of mindfulness, but there is so much more in it. Sakshi Bhav comes from the understanding of the nature of the self and seeing that the mind is not me. It is a machine that I have, and its job is to create thoughts. Since the machine is not yet perfect, it may from time to time present negative thoughts. In that case, I will choose not to associate with them.
Wonderful. So, to summarize, it is basically understanding that you are a witness to your mind. You are not the mind, and you are alert but a passive witness. And you observe your thoughts, but you don't nourish the negative thoughts. If you don't nourish them, they lose their power. Am I right?
That's very correct.
Wonderful. So I think this is going to be really helpful for a lot of people like me and a lot of people who are going to listen to this. Since we are talking about, Swamiji, about how we should be nourishing a thought or, having that sense of kind of ignoring a thought, even if it has come, I also want to talk about self-discipline because I think I read in your book or in one of your social media posts where you mentioned that self-discipline is about nurturing and choosing what is beneficial for you, not what is pleasurable for you. So even I have with my little knowledge that I have on my spiritual path, I have heard about these terms called shreyas and prayers, where prayers is things which are pleasurable, may or may not be very good for you, and shreyas is something which is something which is very good. So of course you always should choose shreyas and not always go behind prayers, and it sounds very good, but my intellectual mind also kind of understands this. But if suppose my mind says that I want to I want to binge watch Netflix every other night, of course it's pleasurable, not beneficial to my health. uh, my intellect mind understands this, but how do I actually implement it is my question. Even if we understand, it's tough to implement, to say that okay, this particular donut is pleasurable but not beneficial. So how do you implement that?
Yes, Munmun, I think as a dietitian, you probably have to do a lot of counseling in this regard. How to hold our senses in check.
Yeah.
Because
Actually, so that is why I'm asking you these questions so that I can put the same answers in front of my clients.
that is the dilemma of the world. As a little child, I myself remember thinking that why is it that everything that is so tasty is not good for health? And why is it that everything that's good for health is not so tasty? But uh, ultimately, why is it that people do binge watching or why do they indulge in gluttony? They want happiness.
Yeah.
Now, self discipline is not about denying yourself happiness, it's denying yourself a lower kind of happiness to achieve a far greater happiness. So, technically, just to understand, we can have two terms, one is pleasure and one is happiness or joy.
Mhm.
Pleasure is experienced from the outside objects, either through food or through movies or through video games, etc. You delight in it during the indulgence, but the feeling doesn't remain. And
Mhm.
then after that, to get the feeling back, you indulge in it again and then again and then again. And later on, it grips the mind as an addiction. And that is when people realize, oh my God, I've got into trouble. Now, joy is something different, which doesn't need anything from the outside. It
Mhm.
comes from within when you perceive you are doing meaningful things. When you perceive that your state is in alignment with your values and you start feeling good about yourself. Now, neurologically, these two experiences of pleasure and pain can be associated with two chemicals in the brain. One is dopamine that excites the brain's reward system. And that excitation of the neurons always gives an anticipation of pleasure, but never fulfillment. So it's like
Mhm.
running on a treadmill where you never go further. You just keep needing the next hit and the next hit and the next hit. And there is another chemical associated with joy, which is serotonin, which doesn't excite the neurons, rather, it calms them down. And that kind of joy, when we experience, it is truly fulfilling. It is never addictive. You never heard
Mhm.
of somebody who's gotten addicted to joy. So to bring our lower self under control, the first thing to do is to strengthen our intellect with this
Mhm.
understanding, with this wisdom. That self control is truly to my benefit. And then after that, used our intellect or the higher self to hold the lower self in check. So this mind is such that every time we stand up to its urges, it will reduce its grip on us. And every time we give in to its urges, it enhances its hold on us. So the
Mhm.
way to get out of these kinds of habits which are detrimental is to first of all empower the intellect, and then second, to use the intellect to restrain our mind. Initially, it's going to be tough the first few days, but the good point is that as we move on, it becomes easier and easier and easier. And finally, the stage of naturality comes. It is said that bad habits are easy to develop but difficult to live by, and good habits require effort to develop, but they are easy to live by. So, with that, Munmun, let me now ask you that on the topic of fasting.
Mhm.
Now, I personally definitely believe that from time to time we must give our digestive system a little rest. But
Mhm.
again, it seems to me that people are going overboard. And
Absolutely.
on the name of fasting, they are forgetting that the idea of eating was not fasting, but to provide nutrients to your body. And are you giving your body the nutrition it needs? So, with this, there are so many different systems of fasting, and recently, intermittent fasting has also become popular. What is your take on it?
Yes. So on a daily basis, what I recommend is following a circadian rhythm diet, which is nothing. It sounds like a fancy term, but it's nothing but it's eating with the sun. So you start eating when the sun rises and you stop eating when the sun sets. Now that's a very big problem with today's youth or today's population because most of us are sleeping when the sun is up. So it also requires you to wake up when the sun rises, if not like really when the sun rises, but at least like say I usually tell my clients that 7 a.m. you start eating. I mean not eating, but start with a drink, a warm herbal drink, and then your breakfast gradually. And then you eat for the next 12 hours and you finish your eating business till 7 p.m. when the sun sets. So 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. is a very reasonable eating time when you're not fasting. It covers your breakfast, it covers your lunch, it covers dinner as well. There's also a snack which comes at around 3 to 4 p.m. So there is no way that you're fasting. But you're also fasting in a sense because from the night time is spent in fasting. So from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., which is again 12 hours, you are fasting, but it doesn't affect you because again you would be sleeping by 10ish. So it's not something that will make you feel very agitated because I haven't eaten food or I'm starved or I'm deprived. But it's a very, very healthy way of eating also because Ayurveda has always been telling us that you should eat according to the sun. So you eat according to the position of the sun, make lunch your biggest meal of the day because the sun is at its peak at that time. So the best time to have lunch is 12, 11, 12, between 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Have a lighter breakfast because the sun is not very bright in the early morning time. So your 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. breakfast time should really not be eggs and toast, which a lot of people do nowadays. It should be something like a very light porridge. So on a daily basis, this is what I tell them. As far as fasting is concerned, because I believe that fasting has to be done in a certain way where you kind of withdraw yourself from the routine activities. If you have tons of work on your head and you plan to fast, I don't think it's going to help anyone. Uh, I don't know if you would agree, but in the older days also, people used to, move inwards while fasting through chanting mantras, to practicing meditation. So that is how, fasting was practiced on a certain occasion. So that is how I tell them that if you're able to kind of find a good time, then you can fast maybe once in a month or once in 15 days.
Yes,
So,
Munmun, actually, I mean, you may be surprised to hear that as a yoga teacher, I also teach diet. And I fully agree with and teach exactly the same point that you should eat according to the circadian rhythm. And in fact, I recommend that you don't overload. If you're just going to have two meals, you're going to be overloading your metabolism. And instead of
yeah,
that, if you can spread it out. So, like you said, you have a 12-hour fast from your dinner to breakfast. And for
yes.
the rest of the time, you take smaller meals, the three-meal regimen. That's also the one that I utilize and I teach for others as well.
Absolutely amazing. So, Swamiji, I want to ask you about this question, which is related to the last one that you answered, and it was about the the restraint of mind to just not you to have some sort of control, and not get addicted to these habits that you spoke about. So, I also want to know what exactly is the difference between self-control and suppression, because I mean, as a say spiritual seeker or even as a layman, how do I know that at this point of time I'm just going way too ahead and I'm just suppressing myself of too many things that I feel that this is what I desire and I'm continuously suppressing myself. So
Mhm.
how do I know, is it self-control or is it suppression?
So, Munmun, suppression happens when we find a particular thought or a desire unpalatable and we consciously push it out of our conscious mind. So we
Mhm.
refuse to acknowledge it, we refuse to handle it. It is there, but we have pushed it into the subconscious. And suppression is never a good thing because when we are doing that, it is going to even have physiological consequences. So, for example, suppressed thoughts could lead to high blood pressure, they could lead to skin conditions, many times backaches or jaw aches or neck aches are also correlated to suppressed thoughts. And it is not solving the problem. Instead of suppression, self control is a genuine effort. It's recognizing our frailties, that as a human being, I have got my lower self, which is always tugging me towards laziness, towards indulgence, etc. But I've got my wisdom, which tells me it's not good for me, and I need to change things. So you can never practice too much of it if you are trying, because you are recognizing the reality, and then, okay, I tried, I failed, never mind, I need to try harder. I tried 100 times, I failed, I might need to try 1,000 times. That is how mastery is achieved. Like a little child learns to walk. Now, that little child, the first day, stands up and falls. But the parents don't get discouraged. The child doesn't get discouraged. Slowly, the child has mastered standing, then walking, then running, and then finally even wins medals. So, that is how mastery will be achieved through the repeated practice of self control. And suppression is unrealistic. We just tend to ignore our shortcomings, we tend to ignore emotional issues, and that becomes counterproductive.
Yes, yes, I think this really clarifies. Also, Swamiji, a healthy morning routine has its own, place in a healthy lifestyle, because that is how, you start your day on a healthy note. And I am really keen to know, I'm very curious to know what is your healthy, morning routine, and if there's any particular morning routine that you recommend for all, your followers, the seekers, anything about that.
Definitely. Any sedentary worker realizes that unless they spend time out to take care of the body, then the health will start declining. That is why it's essential to do some amount of exercise.
Right.
Likewise, a morning routine is just investing in ourselves.
Correct.
Our mind is subject to wear and tear in interacting with the world, with the external, negative, hostile environment, and we need to nourish it and to lift it up on a regular basis. So compare it like this, that if you take milk and pour it in water, the milk doesn't have the ability to retain its identity, gets diluted. But if
Mhm.
you keep the milk separate for a little while and transform it into yogurt, and then churn it and extract butter from it, now the butter can challenge the water. I'll sit on your head and float, you can't do anything to me. So,
Wow.
to
Yes.
make milk into butter, for a little while you had to keep it apart from the water.
Hmm.
Like the water is the world around us with all its distractions and din and noise. And like the milk is our mind. If we want to be in sublime consciousness, basking in good and noble thoughts, then we need to strengthen our mind. And for that, on a daily basis, we should withdraw from the world for a little while. That is our morning routine. What I recommend to people is take out 1 hour every day for your soul. That's a spiritual practice or sadhana that you do, and take out 1 hour every day for your body. So 2 hours you're investing yourself. It is like sharpening the saw. Now, you can go on cutting the wood without sharpening the saw, but it will become inefficient. And if after cutting every tree you spend a little while, then it will just make it more effective. So that is what I recommend for your personal sadhana, the morning time. And for your exercise, you have to suit yourself, whether the morning works for you, evening works for you. And when you're asking about my schedule, I would not recommend anybody to follow my schedule. I used to follow a schedule till about 15 years ago. And then, as the activity started increasing in different time zones, and the prachar acquired a different dimension, I kind of few years ago gave up on following a schedule. But at the same time, whenever I can steal time, I
Yes.
steal it for myself, and I love to absorb myself in meditation and also do my yogasana exercise on a regular basis.
Very inspiring.
So, Munmun, you may be surprised to know that I also run a naturopathy hospital. And this
Oh,
naturopathy works on the principle of detox of the body.
yes.
In fact, one of the primary theories behind naturopathy is to detox the body and
Yes.
rejuvenate the vital force within. So
Yes.
you have mentioned body detox in your book Yuktahaar from time to time. So do share your perspective on detox of the body.
Yes, so absolutely, I don't know if I know much about naturopathy, but what I have learned in my yoga teaching school time, like when I was doing yoga courses, is like we always go through a certain detox protocol, and it doesn't have to be elaborate. It doesn't have to be where people are fearful most of the time when I talk about some yogic detox, but it's something which blends so beautifully in your daily lifestyle. The particular one that I mentioned in my book is Kunja Kriya, which is Kriyas is basically, you would know definitely, is the yogic term for cleansing. So there are so many kriyas, there's the Shat kriyas, 6 cleansing techniques that the yoga textbooks talk about. But I spoke about only one, which is the Kunja Kriya, specifically because it helps to cleanse your entire colon, your gut system, and even the Western science believes that it's so important. In fact, you would know in the West there are people who are always going for some sort of a colon cleanse, from time to time. So we always had these cleansing practices. At the same time, what is unfortunately happening is that a lot of people are doing very random things in the name of detox. When you look at traditional detox activities, there was no such thing of eating something very foreign or eating something very exotic after the cleanse. For example, if we take Kunja Kriya, the traditional meal that you have once you have done the Kriya in the morning, first thing, is a bowl of khichdi with lots of ghee. So lots of ghee is an instruction that comes specifically with the Kriya. Your teacher is always going to tell you that there should be lots of ghee. But you fast forward to the Western science, and there will be people who would be not having rice, which is in the khichdi, because they don't want to have carbs. So their version of detox is carb free, and their version of detox is no ghee, because ghee is probably going to make them put on weight. And their version of detox is all about eating exotic leaves of kale and this and that juice and this green juice. So of course, it depends on, again, the intent, like how I spoke about fasting, where the purpose and the intent was not clear. Here, if you're thinking that detoxification is about starvation, it is not. uh, that way you're not going to detoxify yourself. If you're going to eat something very foreign, exotic, and just going to omit important food groups for that particular day, or there are people who go on for a detox for 7 days, 15 days, and they just have raw salads at times. Now, anything which is so raw may or may not suit everybody, because again, if you're eating something very raw, you need to have good digestion to begin with, because it's not gone through a cooking process, which actually helps to soften the food and helps to digest it better. So, of course, I believe a lot in detoxification. It helps you to cleanse the bad microbes out of your body, the gut microbes. But again, it has to be done in the proper way with a good intent, and in the right way, and not out of believing it to be a certain fad.
Okay, good. That's nice.
Swamiji, often, there are, clients coming into my office and they lose a lot of weight after being on a program with me for certain months. But though I would say that it doesn't happen with everybody, but I would say it's still reasonably, there's a good section of people who still do not feel very satisfied after having lost weight, and also after having gotten rid of so many chronic symptoms that they had, whether it's acne, or whether it was sleeplessness or gas, or maybe the cholesterol numbers are normal now. So they see that the health is being restored, the weight loss has happened, but still that content is not there because they're constantly comparing themselves. Either they're comparing themselves to some of their friend or cousin or relative, or they're simply comparing themselves to the next celebrity that they are fond of. So what I want to say is that this comparison, it leads to a complete lack of fulfillment. It doesn't give joy, it doesn't give satisfaction. So what is your advice on that?
Comparison is said to be the thief of joy. We
Yeah.
may have so much, but when we see somebody has more and we start comparing, then all our joy gets stolen away. Psychologists have tried this experiment with chimps, with monkeys. The monkey was given a marble by the researcher, and if the monkey returned the marble to the researcher, it would be rewarded with a cucumber. And that would please the monkey, all was going well. Until the monkey saw that the monkey by its side for the same act was receiving grapes. And then it became so annoyed, it factually took the cucumber and slammed it on the researcher's face. We human beings are doing the same thing. We may be millionaires, but then we somebody see somebody's got 10 million, then again the discontentment starts. So that is
Absolutely.
why we should compare in good things. This person is doing so much of charity. Why can't I do more? This person is learning the science of mind management. Why should I not spend time learning it? This person is eating healthy. I need to compete in this regard. Hence, our sacred books have said, Santoshas Trishu Kartavyah Swadare Bhojane Dhane. Trishu Naiva Cha Kartavyah Swadhyaye Japatanayo. In certain things, be contented. In certain things, never be contented. And how far you have reached in your spiritual journey, in the good that you have done, always think, oh my God, this person has done more. Inspire yourself. So if we find that we are losing our happiness because of comparisons, we must cut that out by the practice of gratitude, which means start counting your blessings. Instead of looking ahead of you, this guy is more popular, look below yourself and think, I have two eyes. What about those who have just one or don't have any? The gratitude is the sovereign recipe for cutting out all kind of discontent due to comparisons.
Very nice. I think this really helps. And I'm really going to, probably use some lines from you in front of my clients. Maybe it's going to help them out.
Yes. So finally, Munmun, again, as I teach holistic health to people, I always teach them to read their body. And that's something that I do for myself as well. So sometimes I may go beyond my regimen of exercise. Sometimes I may choose to to let it go someday or modify it based on what the body is signaling to me. Now, you have mentioned that rather than be a calorie counter, you be more intuitive and let the body inform you how much you need to eat. I'd love for you to elaborate upon that theme.
Yes, so Swamiji, the thing is that, the world we live in, we like everything in numbers. We like to be drowned in data. We like to be drowned in numbers. And the more we, somebody talks about numbers, we feel that, oh, what an intelligent person. But intelligence is about, being in tune with your body. It's about being able to listen to what the body is saying. So we are being very superficial with things. To talk very scientifically, calories is a very outdated concept. It's absolutely flawed, because now we know that each person has a different set of gut microbes inside them, and depending on this cocktail of gut microbes that people harbor inside them, they would extract different number of calories from the same food that we are eating. So I and you can eat the same food, exactly the same type, the same quantity, but our gut microbes are going to extract different calories out of it, which no app or no calorie counter can, tell it that, this is how it will work, or this is how it will happen. So to begin with, it's completely flawed. Um, I think a lot of things run because of the commercial aspect, and the moment you say that you measure calories, there are a lot of business making models that come up, right from apps to products to a lot of wearables and a lot of things. But a very simple thing is, if you want to know how much to eat, is like you said, you read your body, you understand, you try to listen to the signals, and if you just uh, eat when you don't feel completely full, like you stop eating when you're content, but not like full till the neck. That is absolutely brilliant, because that is how you have kind of satiated yourself, but you have not overeaten to a point where you will feel so lazy that you would want to take a nap after having your dinner or your lunch or your breakfast. Um, why I also say that is because appetite is a moving entity. Like you said, like there's certain days, and it works different for different people also, interestingly. For example, let's take a stressful day for a person. Somebody who is stressed, for some people, their sympathetic nervous system gets activated, which doesn't make them feel hungry at all. In that circumstances, if the nutritionist has told them, no, no, you're supposed to eat this much 1300 calories, the person is just going to force himself to eat those 1200 calories of food. And because the digestion is not at its prime, it's just going to get converted into toxins or even body fat. And I often get very pleased by this whole thing of Vedic wisdom, where we always uh, believe that food is not a commodity. Food is like an oblation that you're offering to your digestive fire, and then in return what you get is prasad, which is the abundance of health. So when you have that attitude towards your food, invariably you will not be able to text somebody or call somebody while eating, or be on Facebook, or be on any kind of other mind distracting activities, because when you're kind of cultivated that attitude towards your food, you would want to be there present, and that is what the modern world now calls it mindfulness today. But this mindfulness was already there. It has always been taught to us. That is why we always did a little small prayer before we started eating, so as to center our mind.
So Munmun, I think you mentioned the term in passing about of taking the food as an oblation. So the Bhagavad Gita says, Sri Krishna says, I am the fire of digestion in the stomach. And then we have this verse, Brahmarpanam Brahma Hui Brahmarnau Brahmanahutam, which most people use when they make an offering of food, that we are actually offering food. In fact, we make everything, our every act, as an offering to the divine. And when
Yes.
we start doing our acts in that consciousness, our intention is so pure, we are doing it as an act of service. So,
Mm,
likewise, the concept of eating as well, we shift from this mode of eating to gratify the senses to
mm,
eating as an act of service, because this body is also a temple of the divine. So, with that, we automatically then start, when we see it as a service, then we do it to the best of our ability. Again, not as enjoyment, but as an act that is consecrated. So, Munmun, it is such a pleasure discussing these
mm.
principles with you. I read your book because I wanted to learn, and I definitely enjoyed reading that book.
Thank you so much, Swamiji. The feeling is mutual. In fact, I should be the one who's, feeling very honored, and you've taken out your precious time to do this session with me, and that means so much. And thank you for, sharing your vast knowledge here in this session so humbly. And I'm sure everyone who's going to listen to this is going to benefit immensely. The book is out there, which is much more than this, than what obviously we can cover in this 1 hour session. And it's so elaborate. And the best thing is, it's written in such a simple language that the moment I read it, my daughter is just 13 years old, but I told her that this is one book that you need to, read before you go back to your boarding school. And she has, in fact, finished 2 chapters. And she's understanding. It's not that she has to use any dictionary or she's coming back to me asking for things. Nothing. She's reading it on her own. She's understanding it. She's also finding it very interesting. So that is, I think, is, a true mark of a teacher, because it's always said that, when you are a teacher, you become a great teacher only when you're able to explain things so simply to others uh, that it just becomes joyful for them. So I think that is what exactly is happening with the power of thoughts. So thank you so much for your time and for this wonderful book.
Thank you so much, Munmun, for your kind words, and it was a pleasure speaking to you. Namaste.
Namaste, Swamiji.